The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade. Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we get out of the box and dive into topics that are sidelined. I look forward to entertain, educate, and inspire. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget. Welcome back to Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here Joanne Light, and she is here to shed some light on overcoming parent burnout, and I'm excited for that. So before we go into the topic, I'm going to introduce her to you. So she is Joanne Light, as I said, and she is a parent coach and emotional intelligence trainer who has a doctorate in counseling and education. We're going to talk to her about different things with parenting. At the end, she's going to let us know where we can find her on our website and various other places if we need to talk to her or have sessions with her. So, hi, Joan.
Hi, Jade.
How are you?
Happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. Now we're talking about something that's it's stressful, but it's something that we need to talk about here. It is overcoming parent burnout. Now, Joanne, what is considered parent burnout?
Well, let me start by saying to you, Jade, that burnout traditionally has been somebody at their job who doesn't feeling too much stress and is not functioning well and not producing. But there is now a recognized, really medical a diagnosis of parent burnout. And burnout is characterized by emotional exhaustion and a decrease in self-fulfillment. And you certainly can apply that to our parents today who are dealing with so much, especially with pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I really think that burnout is just the fallout, the mental and even the physical fallout from stress, chronic stress in any sphere of life. And so it certainly can be applied to parents. The symptoms, you get exhausted, but fatigue exhausted. And then there are some stages. Would you like me to go into that?
You can go into it.
Okay. I think that there are three big ones. You're exhausted in your role as a parent because you're fatigued. They can be physical symptoms. I know many parents who develop digestive issues, headaches, migraines, and of course, just being stressed, trying to do everything all at once, multitasking, and they're just exhausted. Mm-hmm. And if that is not addressed in any way, you start to think about your previous parenting self, and you feel shame and a little guilt that you just don't feel that way. Mm-hmm. And you're fed up with your role. And then there's emotional distancing. You get to a stage where you withdraw from both your kids and your partner. If there's a partner involved, and your stress becomes greater. So I think when there's too much stress and an absence of the resources, Jade, to deal with it, if you don't have any help, you don't have support, you don't know what's going on, that creates this imbalance.
Yes.
Between stress and resources, creates burnout. And, the exhaustion leads to a lack of fulfillment, and that can be pretty dangerous. You feel shameful, and you're upset. You don't really know what to do and how to deal with it, and ultimately it could lead to depression. I think that many parents withdraw to the point where they're really isolated, depressed. They've turned away from their kids, which, of course, we all know it's not that anyone wants to do that, because we all love our children, but you just become disengaged and disconnected, and that is it's serious for the parent and, of course, the kids.
Yeah, because how do you explain to the kids that it's not you, it's just how I'm feeling?
Exactly.
Because no matter what it is, if it is that they see the reaction or the impact that it has caused you, they're going to believe it's them, it's their fault. Because if you had no kids, you probably wouldn't be having this kind of burnout.
Exactly. And it's stressful for everybody, and it could lead to negligence. You're just not taking care of your kids. They're just going about their whatever, and they certainly don't feel that they're in a safe and secure place.
So does burnout, though, make you a bad parent, having burnout or experiencing that?
That's a very fair question. Burnout definitely does not make you a bad parent. You may be doing some bad things if you're, screaming and yelling all the time, or if you're, physically manhandling your kids. But you are not a bad parent because you're burnt out. You're burnt out because it's been one thing after another. You may be working, you may have and trying to take care of the kids. You may be a single parent. You may have pandemic, issues and isolation issues. There's all kinds of reasons why you get burnt out. You've been multitasking. You've taken on so much that you just can't deal with it anymore. And but that doesn't mean you're a bad parent. We all, at least I think 99% of us, truly love our children. And when you're burnt out, you just are so disconnected. You've lost connection with your values of being a parent, the ones that are upstanding values like integrity and emotion and empathy, and you can't get there. You just can't get there. But there are very few really bad parents. Most of us want to do our very best. So when you get to that point of being depressed and disconnected, you need to do something about it.
Speaking of that, all right, so I'm going to tie it into something. You have parents who are going through some serious burnouts, and then you have situations where they leave the family. They may just walk out because they can't take it anymore.
Right.
And they leave the kids with the spouse or family members, and they go, or they're feeling that burnout. So even probably the child as a baby or so, they give up the child for adoption because they cannot manage it. Would that be considered, you're not a good parent because you left me? It's not said that, well, you couldn't manage it at the time, so you left us. It's just, you left me, or you gave me up for adoption because you couldn't manage being a parent.
I think that's a slightly different take on what I am talking about.
Okay.
I think that is a decision that you make, and it's probably a good decision if you have a resource. That's, you're managing, you're balancing your stress with your resources. If you decide that this is not for you, especially when you have a newborn or an infant, or you even when you were pregnant, you knew this was not right for you, and you make arrangements for a family member to take your child, or you put your child up for adoption in a reliable situation. I don't think that's burnout. I think that's a lack of a maternal instinct. And a lack of financial resources and so much stress that you're realizing. So you're balancing because you're doing something about it. When you don't have the resources and you have just the stress, and you can't, you're not making any logical, you're not using your reasoning ability and your emotions to let's look at this. How am I feeling? I'm feeling so exhausted. Oh, well, at that first stage, if you think, oh, well, maybe I'm experiencing some burnout, it's catching yourself as soon as you can. I think the situation you describe is, I'm not saying that's not burnout and it's not the same. It's just, I think, a different context.
Okay. And I asked that.
Sense? Okay. But when you are feeling and recognizing that maybe you're burnt out, don't let it get to the point where you disconnect from your kids and you feel guilt and shame that you're not the parent you used to be or that you want to be. It feels inescapable. There's just nowhere you can go. When you're a parent, you can't take vacation.
No.
And you can't get, there's no compensation in it.
Oh, no.
You can't leave the job unless, as I said, you've organized that in advance.
In advance to go.
So, but there are some things you can do before you get to a depressed state. First of all, I think parents should, and this is what I mean by overcoming. I think you have to try to notice not what you're not doing, but what you're doing well.
That's important.
Give yourself a break. Say, I made a really good dinner tonight. That's a really good thing. When you can't deal with what your kids are tormented or upset about, if you have a connection with your children, you can say to them, look, I love you. I want to hear this story, but this is not a good time for me. I'm just so exhausted. I can't really focus on you. And I want to be able to really listen to you. I want to hear you. This is just not a good time. Another thing you can do is look at what you're doing. I mean, if you're running in 15 directions and you're taking care of your kids all day because of pandemic, and then you try to work all night, of course you're going to be tired. You have to decide, talk to someone and decide what can you give up. You got to let go of things. If you're the kind who needs to iron everything and keep the house spick and span and run to the store every day for fresh lettuce, I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm just trying. If you really look at what you're doing every minute of the day and you're feeling tired, exhausted, and on the verge of burnout, you need to try to figure out what you can let go of. And with your kids, just remember, connecting is more important than correcting. If they're not doing their homework and that's stressing you out totally, you can try a few things to try to get your child engaged in school, but you know what? Let them have the consequence. It's important to raise our kids to understand what the consequences of their behavior.
Yes.
And parents today, Jade, don't do that very well. They want to fix it or not allow the obstacle to even get there in the first place. So they swoop up and fix. And if you're fixing all day long, you're not really having an emotional experience. You're not really addressing what the issues are. So connect with your kids. Reconnect with your values. If you value parenting and raising, mentally, emotionally healthy children, figure out what you can let go of and talk to them. And when you get to a stage of burnout where you don't even want to see them, then you need to seek help. It's, so many parents today, at least in the Western world, don't like to admit they have a problem or they're struggling.
Oh, yes.
And I think there's nothing more natural than to seek professional help, because when you get to that point, that's risky. You need some additional help and support. Maybe you have a friend who you can talk to. Your partner can work with you, perhaps. But professional, psychotherapy or a social worker, seek professional help. It shouldn't be stigmatized.
It shouldn't, Joanne, but the thing is, I believe that they believe that if it is that it reached that place where they have to speak to somebody, it means that they are failed. And I think that's what they associate with. If they have to speak to a social worker or a psychotherapist, it means that, boy, I've really failed.
Exactly. So, I mean, as a cult, all cultures need to destigmatize the need for support and help. But you ask any mental health professional, and they'll tell you if you get to a point where you're depressed and totally disconnected and ignoring your children and well, really neglecting your children. I mean, it's very sad, but if you're not willing to ask for help, it's really not going to get any better. And then as your kids grow, it will come back at you, with their risky behavior. They're not telling you how they're feeling. It's not looked upon everywhere as a good option, but I really believe in asking for help. And that is one of the things that is self-care.
Yes.
If your tank is empty, if you haven't slept in days, a full night's sleep, you have to figure out a way to get around that. It's so important. I don't care if it's a 5-minute break. You go for a walk, you have a glass of wine, you have a chat with a friend, you watch some TV show that's garbage, but that's so much fun.
You lock yourself in a room.
Yeah. I once locked myself in the bathroom.
Yes.
Locked the door.
Lock yourself.
Scream.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Scream. Yeah. I agree
Screaming
with you.
is great.
Yeah.
Is a great release. And have more compassion for yourself. If you become more self-aware, stop in your tracks. And if you're the kind of person who would be kind to a friend, ask yourself, if my friend told me about feeling this way, what would I tell my friend?
Right.
And then turn around and tell it to yourself.
Yes. Because we tend to be harder on ourselves than other persons.
Terrible. The self-critic inside, that monkey wheel or whatever it is that's going on and on in your head, try to notice it. I mean, take a deep breath. In fact, meditating, mindfulness, all those things that, people say, oh, I can't do that. But just stopping in your tracks, pausing and counting, like count to 10, take really deep breaths and try again. It doesn't work every time, but it's certainly a strategy that parents who are aware that they're slipping, that they know, oh my gosh, I just want my kids to go away. Can you make them disappear for
Oh gosh.
If you're getting to that point, you have to figure out some strategies. Either a relative comes in and help, a friend comes in and help. It takes a village.
It takes a village to raise a child.
It sure does.
What I want to know is, when parents have reached burnout, sometimes they become so angry that they lash out on the kids.
Right.
And it becomes sometimes mentally abusing to the kids. How is it that as parents you deal with it so that, because sometimes kids can push your buttons.
Oh, all the time.
And when kids do, and you are burnt out, listen, you tell them anything. You'd say things to them without even thinking about how it will affect them because of what you're doing, because of the state that you're in, because you're so angry. And when you talk about self-care, it means sometimes that you take a break. And it's not bad to take a break from your kids.
Absolutely not. It's important to take a break, maybe even a week, if you have the resources. Yes, taking breaks is good. And I can only tell you that when I work with parents, the most important thing for them to learn is how to calm themselves, to be self-aware enough, Jade, to say, oh, this is how I'm feeling. This is who I am and how I'm feeling. And, your kids are going to have tantrums or respond to you because they're still developing and growing. The prefrontal cortex of the brain is not fully developed till a person is like 25. So your kid is responding to you with the emotional fear flight kind of piece of their brain, and if you're in that same state, you're not going to be able to handle it.
No.
Don't try to handle it until you can make yourself bring back that calm. And when it happens over and over again, you can practice and you can learn how to respond to your kids from a place of calm. So between the stimulus, they're being obnoxious or not doing what you asked. If you've asked 12 times for them to please hang up their jacket, and then that's pushing your buttons.
Oh, yes.
They don't listen.
Nope.
But usually there's reasons why your kids don't listen. You haven't connected with them. Maybe why are they not listening to you has something to do with the way you were parented. I mean, you
Wow, that is something else.
Oh, yes. Generational patterns. I mean, we all have grown up with some level or lack thereof of emotional intelligence. And, no matter how hard you try, it just comes out. And you do sometimes say things that are hurtful. But if you can recognize it and repair the relationship, say,
Yes.
I'm really sorry. I didn't really mean that. I cannot deal with this today. Can we talk tomorrow? I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I mean, you just have to get smart about it, really. And people who want to improve their parenting try to learn those skills, with whatever methods work best for them, whether it's taking breaks, meditating, reading about it, hiring a coach, whatever it works for you. But if you're truly depressed and want nothing to do with your children and you're neglecting them, I'm sorry. The only thing I can suggest is that you reach out for professional help.
Yes. And try and reach out before it gets to that stage, please.
Exactly. Asking for help is never a shameful thing. I think it's a brave thing.
I agree with you. It is a brave thing to do.
Yes.
And I hope even parents listening understand and realize that, listen, first of all, this is how kids are. And as you said, it's really dependent also on how we're parenting our kids, why they're like that.
Right.
And I've seen parents with, like you have like 4 kids or 5 kids under the age of 10, and you're saying the kids are driving you crazy.
Absolutely.
And you're shouting and they're throwing things all over the place and you don't know how to manage. And at that point, it's so easy for you just to lash out on them. But sometimes you have to remember they didn't ask to be here.
That's right. And you just have to be peaceful and calm when you try to address it. It's very hard. But, really, those feelings of resentment or shame or guilt, we live in a society that says you got to love your kids unconditionally, no matter what. And yes, that's true. But when we're frustrated, we're not bad parents. But, 2 things can be true, Jade, at the same time. You can be... you can love your child to death and at the same time, realize that parenting is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something. Yeah.
But, should, but you need to, go according to your values but the screaming, trust me, I've seen it over and over, just lashing out and yelling, doesn't work because the kids really, really will not listen to you.
No.
Screaming and lecturing.
No. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, so we're urging people to try and get help before it reaches anywhere. And even before that, like having kids on a general basis, try and take the steps and use some of the strategies that even Joanne spoke about to help to reduce parent burnout. So that we can be better persons, because the truth is we can't be good parents if we're not good to ourselves.
That's right. That is exactly right.
So we have to be good to ourselves and we have to love ourselves first before we even go out and say we're going to love our kids, as we're not even going to be able to show how to love them. If we can't love ourselves, we can't love them.
That's right. Self-compassion.
Yes.
Yep.
Self-compassion. All right, Joanne, I want you to tell us where we can find you.
People can find me at my website, which is joannehlight.com. They can, and on my website, there's a link to schedule a complimentary session with me and to actually get my gift, a PDF, which is covering many of the points in writing, of course, in a document that I've been discussing with you, Jade, this morning. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
They can also email me directly if people feel like they just need immediately to reach out. want to chat for a few minutes, they should email me at Joanne at JoanneHLight.com. I'd be happy to answer emails.
Definitely. Thank you so much again, Joanne. And thank you again for listening to The Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.